Welcome back to the English TV Live podcast, everybody. This is Lloyd here with you again, and I'm very happy to have a special guest with you today, a language expert, also a dating guru, I think we can say. If you're not sure what the word guru is, how would you define that?
It's like expert, someone who coaches and teaches people, right? So a guru can be for anything. It can be a yoga guru, can be I guess a singing guru. I'm just trying to think what else you can be. But dating guru is also someone who helps other people to improve their skills, their communicative skills, their interaction with the opposite sex, or it could be the same sex if they happen to be gay, I guess. But of course,
whatever floats your boat, right? Yeah. So this is Conor Clyne from the YouTube channel
Tsar Experience.
Tsar Experience. What I say, Tsar or Tsar?
Tsar. I say Tsar. I had a different name in the channel before that. I actually used to call it Language Tsar when it focuses on languages. But now actually what I show is my travel experience as a foreign guy. I was born in Ireland and here in Eastern Europe. So countries like Ukraine, Belarus, Russia, Romania, Moldova, maybe the Baltics I'm also going to go to and film as well. And just digressing slightly, I did say I'm from Ireland, but I don't have a very Irish accent. So
sorry to interrupt. What would that mean, by the way, to digress? How would you define that?
Digress is to change the topic kind of suddenly.
To change the topic, yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll be doing that plenty of times in this podcast, digressing. So it was actually quite funny because I've seen quite a few of your videos from time to time. Oh, cheers, by the way. Yeah. So this is the English TV Live beer broadcast, and the reason I decided to do that, let me take a sip. It's because on your channel, one of your most popular features is the Vodka vodcast, right?
Exactly. So it's like a podcast, but because it's filmed, it's a vodcast. And vodka is obviously a very popular drink, that's made here in Eastern Europe. So vodka sound very good together. But I don't always drink. So
I was quite disappointed about that because you do talk a lot in these podcasts, right? It's fair to say.
Yeah.
Right. You go into quite a lot of detail, and so when I clicked on the video, you see it's like 30 minutes or something maybe.
Yeah.
I was expecting, sometimes you speed through to the end. I was thinking by the end he's going to be like lying down.
I could do that as an experiment.
Disappointed.
So apparently it was disappointing for him. But no, I'm not blind drunk during my podcast. But that's something to think about if it's more entertaining. Maybe write me a message afterwards.
Well, we're going to leave, of course, the link to Conor's YouTube channel in the description. Whether you are watching this is our first ever video podcast for English TV Live, but also, of course, the audio podcast as well. So, Conor,
more than 10 languages. What's relevant to this region is, of course, I speak Russian quite well, and I speak basic Ukrainian, which is important for this city, Lviv, in particular. And I did learn Belarusian. Most people ask me why I learned Belarusian. It's a bit like learning Irish.
Well, I was just about to ask you about Irish. Of course, Ireland, most people speak English, but you do have your own native language as well. Kind of in Scotland, they have Scottish, Wales, Welsh.
Exactly.
Have you made much progress? Can you speak Irish? Have you learned Irish? I was about to say the same thing.
There you can see how much my Irish sucks, actually. But I basically just said, what did I actually say? I can't remember. I just said I don't speak it very well, basically. I do speak Irish. And actually, one thing that if you could understand the word order that I used, is I said I have Irish. That's actually something that Irish people tend to say when they speak in English. They will say, have you French? That's a very common expression in Ireland. It actually comes directly from the word order and the choice of words that we have in Irish to express the same thing. So in standard English, you say, do you speak French? But Irish people often will say, have you French?
Do you have French?
Exactly. So
I don't have much French or Irish.
So there you can see that you couldn't understand what I was saying when I spoke in Irish, and not just because my Irish isn't amazing or anything. It's because it's completely different. It's not from the same language family as English, so it's not mutually comprehensible. It's actually easier probably to understand Russian as an English speaker, native English speaker, as it is to understand Irish.
Yeah. It's funny that it's so alien when you consider the proximity of the two countries.
Two countries, but the English language has a very different history. It's obviously it was Germanic language, heavily influenced by French, Norman French. So, and then of course had a lot of Norse words, didn't have very many Celtic words in it, doesn't have very many Celtic words in it. So Celtic is the family of languages and the people that Irish belongs to, along with Scots Gaelic, Welsh, Manx, which is found in the Isle of Man, which I can understand when I hear it, and also Scots Gaelic, Welsh I can understand. We have Breton in the north of France, which I can understand, and Cornish, which I've never heard. So Cornish actually died as a language and it was revived, so there are people who relearned it. But Welsh and Breton I think are a little bit similar maybe, but there's a divide even within those Celtic languages.
Well, if something is revived, it means it's brought back to life.
Exactly.
So, I've noticed in Wales they're trying to revive Welsh as well, for example.
Yeah, quite successfully.
Yeah, quite successfully. So they often have a lot of signs in Welsh in the government. They often speak in Welsh and English at the same time. So it's difficult to revive a language, definitely.
Yeah, I mean Hebrew is a revived language. So it can be done with. I think political will is normally the main motivation for reviving a language, and if it's going to be successful. I mean, Cornwall is not a country, so I doubt it's going to be revived. Wales has its own autonomy, so yeah, that's an extra reason to push and make it distinct and to revive a language. It's kind of like another element of identity, we could say. So for Irish people, it's not that important. They have full independence, so learning Irish is not considered important for being Irish, which is exactly the same as in Belarus, in the sense that everybody in Ireland can speak English, 100% of the population. Then you have 5% more or less that speak Irish as their first language, maybe at home, or they're bilingual. And then you have like another, I'm not sure what the official statistics are way too high, but then you have a certain number of people who can speak it like as a second language because they just learned it or they went to school in Irish, which is actually quite popular amongst the upper middle classes to send their children to an Irish speaking school. So in Belarus,
in Ireland, if you could speak Irish, would that signify maybe you're from a upper class, higher class?
No. It could mean that you're from a special area where the language is still spoken, or it could mean that yes, you went to a school. Especially in Dublin, it could mean that there are a lot of schools that are slightly, I would say upper middle class, I wouldn't say upper class. Ireland has a very different class structure. It's not as stratified as in the British culture. Although Dublin was the most British cities, that it does have more of this kind of like divide. But for example, Conor McGregor is from a working class area of Dublin. He has a very distinct accent from the north side of Dublin. But he did go for a couple of years to a Gael school, which is an Irish-speaking school, from what he said in an interview. But he couldn't speak any Irish, really.
Are you a UFC fan? Bit of a UFC fan?
Not particularly, but I do watch him because he was obviously born in the same country as me, and I find him
bit of a national
interesting.
icon.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. So that's an example. So at some stage, his family had a bit more money, I guess, and they sent him to school, I would gather. But there you see, it's a guy who's not from necessarily an upper class in the society originally, although obviously now he can exceed any class he wants with the amount of money he's made.
Oh, he definitely can. I heard he's worth more than $1 billion now. Not sure if that's correct.
Surprised, but that's
Conor,
a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. I'd like to ask you a little bit about your language learning journey. So, as we said before, Conor can speak more than 10 languages, which is obviously it's pretty incredible. And our listeners or our viewers out there are also on their English language learning journey. Some more further along than others. But in your case, you've learned. Would you call yourself a polyglot? Would be the word, right?
Yes, definitely.
And how did your language learning journey start? Because I mean, you don't just wake up and you speak 10 languages. I mean, this is a lifelong journey.
Exactly.
Where did it start? Where did this passion start? And how did you move along that journey?
So, I grew up only speaking English. I didn't grow up bilingual or trilingual or anything like that. And I actually sucked completely at languages in school. So I was one of the worst students at languages in my school. I was quite a good student up until I became a rebellious teenager, but I always was weak at languages. So it's kind of ironic. I find this in a lot of things in life, is that sometimes what you're really weak in, if you just focus on it and overcoming it because it's a challenge, in the end you surpass everybody. Definitely everybody I went to school with, I can safely say I speak a lot more languages than them to a higher level. Probably in the country, there probably aren't many people. Maybe there's someone who speaks more languages, not a competition, but just trying to demonstrate that even though I was really bad at languages, my 3 worst results in my high school final exams were actually English, Irish, and French. So it's a big surprise. So what happened later on is I went to France on Erasmus, and when I was there, I was basically a mute.
Erasmus is that kind of student exchange program,
Exactly. So I went on an exchange program to France for 1 year, and I was basically a mute for the first month because I could not talk to anyone. I remember trying to order a sandwich on the train down from Paris to the city I was studying, which was Clermont-Ferrand, in the center of France, and I could not order a sandwich in French. I had to point and grunt. That's how
I'm basically at that level at the moment here in Ukraine, just pointing and grunting.
Yes, exactly. So I want.
I want. Yeah.
And they couldn't even understand the I want part. They just understand I want because I was
just pointing and looking hungry. Yeah.
So basically, it was a process of figuring out, and basically I got to a very, like, let's say a high beginner level after a year. I then worked in a restaurant in France for the summer. That really helped me because I really had to learn, because I had to understand what everyone was saying for work purposes in a restaurant. And after that I came back and I discovered Michel Thomas, this course, and I just liked the fact that it was very different. It said no memorization, no homework, and that just got me hooked on learning languages. And then afterwards I started to develop my own philosophy and methods, and I just kept traveling and learning more languages, and then been super motivated because I got better and better and better. I also got a lot of positive reinforcement because I got great feedback. It facilitated my traveling a lot, and it made it a lot easier.
Who gave you this feedback? Native speakers of those languages?
Yeah. Or maybe someone who also learned the language. I mean, it's not always exclusively native speakers, but basically I could travel to France, to Germany, to Italy, to Spain, to Portugal, and speak in those languages. And that just made my travel experience a lot more fulfilling. It also made it easier for me to meet girls in these countries, which was a big...
We'll get into that in a second. So the interesting thing for you, I was telling Jacob the other day, Jacob is one of our other teachers at EnglishTVLive, I was saying, I met this YouTube guy, this YouTuber, he's a language expert and dating guru, and we're both saying it's quite an interesting combination, but it kind of does make sense when you link the two together.
Maybe.
In a way.
I'm the only one who does this. All the other...
at first glance it seems quite strange, but when you think about it a little bit more...
It's communication.
Communication, relationships.
I have never seen another dating expert who is actually really multilingual. There is RC Max. He actually grew up in Austria and speaks amazing English, and he is learning Russian. I know that he moved to Kiev, but that's about it as far as it goes. No, most of them are monolingual. For me, just gave me a lot of motivation to learn languages. I traveled in Brazil, and I loved it, not just for girls, but just in general. And then, of course, meeting Brazilian girls and needing to communicate with them because the level of English was low. I was just like, I'm all in. That's it. I'm going to learn it. I'm going to improve my communication skills.
Sorry to interrupt you there. Nice expression. I'm all in. Yeah. How would you define that? To put you on the spot again.
I'm 100% committed. The Italians use English words to describe this to say faccio una full immersion. So they say full immersion.
I'm all in.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're all in on something, it means you're totally committed. I might be wrong here, but I think it comes from gambling when you're in the casino.
Yeah.
And you put
all your chips in.
All of your chips, and you're like, I'm very confident I'm going to win this round. I put all of my chips in. So you say, I'm all in. I think that's where it comes from. So I'm definitely going to do this. I'm going to give all of my efforts to this target. In your case, learning different languages. In the case of, so you learned Brazilian Portuguese. I've heard there's quite a big difference between Portuguese in Portugal and in Brazil.
Yeah, there is. There is a big difference. It's more than, say, Latin American Spanish and Peninsular Spanish. I guess we call it Spanish in Spain. And also I learned Russian, obviously for the ladies, more or less, in the beginning, because I came here and I found it very frustrating. I actually came to Lviv 10 years ago, and almost no one spoke English, and my Russian was really, really bad. So, and this city actually people speak Ukrainian, but I was for a trip in the region. I had, focused on Russian, and it was really, really difficult. I had a lot of problems on my first trip. I was taken advantage of because I couldn't speak the language and I was very vulnerable.
Too much pointing and grunting. I like you.
That wasn't the issue. The issue was like people saw me as a bit of a vulnerable tourist. I was always traveling on my own, didn't speak the language, didn't understand the culture, because that comes also with learning a language as well, that you really have to dive deep into the local culture to understand it. But even after that very how would you say, traumatic? Yeah, I was going to say traumatic as well. It's actually something that was
maybe another way you could say maybe eye-opening.
eye-opening.
Eye-opening. It was a very surprising experience that time.
I was left very philosophical after the trip. I had an amazing experience, but I did have some really bad things happen to me as well. So it wasn't all just highs. It was extreme lows and some highs. So it was really topsy-turvy, as you can see, up and down like this. And I was really determined to learn Russian. And I learned Russian, and then afterwards I've actually come here to learn Ukrainian for this city here, Lviv, because in daily life, in most of the big cities in Ukraine, people will use more Russian than Ukrainian. So in Kiev, in Kharkiv, the second city, and Odessa, which is the summer capital, we're about to go. Actually, tomorrow I'm probably going to go to Kharkiv. And here in Lviv, they do speak Ukrainian, so that I learned Ukrainian for here. And definitely it transformed my love life. It's not like I didn't have girlfriends before and I could use English, but definitely it just multiplied all the options I had. And it made me a lot more interesting, I think, to girls as well, because I had a story about, wow, why do you speak Russian? Why do you speak Ukrainian? Why do you speak Portuguese? Why do you speak Italian?
It's a good opener, right? Good way to start.
Well, for girls, it makes, if they're curious, they'll normally ask me, because not very many foreign tourists, when they travel, use any other language other than English. And I always say that you need to differentiate yourself, like put yourself above others. To a certain extent, that can be by your charisma, your looks, your opener, and lots of different things, right? Your clothes, money. These are all small things. But also this can be a small thing, the fact that, well, I learned Ukrainian. So there's very few guys who come here who are not of Ukrainian descent, who have learned Ukrainian. Actually, what I get a lot is either that I'm a Russian-speaking Ukrainian who's come to Lviv, and my Ukrainian is not very good, because I'm from Donbass or somewhere, or from Odessa. So it doesn't always work out that they think I'm necessarily a foreigner, or they think I'm Polish.
Well, I guess you could say probably either one of us, if you were to look at us, we could possibly be Russian or Ukrainian.
For sure. We're European looking.
It's not like I used to live in South Korea, and obviously you can get away with, like, people know on first sight that you're not ethnically local, right? Yeah. But in this case, we could conceivably be Russian or Ukrainian. So I could see where that could happen. Another question for you then. So you said one of the reasons that you got into learning Russian, Ukrainian, is because of your love life, the ladies here. You could say maybe you took a shining. It's kind of an old-fashioned expression.
Yeah, definitely.
You took a shining to I took a shine or a shining? A shine. You took a shine to the ladies in this region. And what would you say it was that about Eastern European ladies, Ukrainian, Russian, Belarusian, that really stood out for you, that really made you so motivated to learn languages?
So my personal preference is for girls who are tall, very slim, high cheekbones, kind of typical would be a model, maybe not necessarily as skinny as a model.
Yeah. My typical girl's a model.
Just being honest about it.
Fair enough, yeah.
And I have met those kind of girls in Western Europe and dated some of them, but there's just like about 20 times more in Eastern Europe. So just the percentage, the likelihood of me bumping in on a given day, walking around here in Ukraine with a girl who's aesthetically the type I like, and which a lot of girls like in the modeling industry apparently likes. It doesn't mean that everybody likes. I do have clients who actually prefer a certain type of girl. I'm like, well, okay, we'll look for those girls in Ukraine for you. But just basically the girls are better looking, just to simplify it for everybody, compared to Western Europe or North America or basically anywhere else on the planet. Maybe Southern Brazil, the very south of Brazil, girls are very similar. That's also why they're highly recruited into modeling agency, because their ethnic mix is like...
By the way, just sorry to interrupt, but you do have a scheduled appointment at a friend of yours hosting a swimsuit model show, which is probably...
This is uncanny, because I looked to make sure the audio was recording, and I have a message from the location where it's going to be held, and they're just telling me, Conor, завтра будет просто модели у нас, это даже не casting. Okay, all right, so he's just telling me about the models. It's not actually
live Russian right here.
Yeah, exactly. But he said завтра. Okay, but I'm not going to be завтра. He didn't understand my message. It's actually on Friday, the casting. So he just didn't understand what it meant. But anyways, basically, so one of my friends who's actually German.
I will definitely be...
Lloyd obviously wants to come to Odessa and hang out.
I'll be looking out for your next video, definitely.
He's going to come to Odessa, let's be honest about it. So he actually has a swimwear brand, so bikinis, and swimwear for guys as well. but obviously I'm more interested in the models for the bikinis than for the
I would guess that you're more interested in one of those two.
Actually, his male models were actually cool. Actually, they're actually Latin American, a lot of them, not Ukrainian. Some of them Ukrainian, some of them Latin American. The guys who model for them, they were cool guys.
It's a nice combination.
But I was more interested in female models, obviously, and getting to know them and filming them, because obviously I can film and give that both to my friend, to the models themselves. They want to use it on social media, and of course I can use that footage then in my own videos on YouTube. So that's actually what I'm going to be doing on Friday. I'm going to be just with a bunch
life,
of
tough life.
Awful.
Yeah.
Don't try to be me. Don't try to come to Eastern Europe and start a YouTube channel.
I hope you're going to be okay. You know, hope you'll get through this next couple of days.
Trying to choose but to film.
I mean, we can agree that the women in this region are stunning, beautiful, but it's, you know, I mean, that's not the only thing, right? I mean, that can't be the only reason that you like the ladies here. I mean, looks are one thing, but I mean, personality or characteristics of personality must be important as well.
Yeah.
And how would you say that women from this region differentiate from other regions, and why does that attract you?
I'm just going to take a break for a sec because I think we got very low light. Okay. So I just want to make sure that I don't lose. So Lloyd is asking an interesting question. This is just basically about looks. So my channel, by the way, is non-politically correct. Like, I just say exactly what I think, basically. I mean, I don't say 100% what I think. I say like 95% I go the way.
Where's the other 5%?
It won't be allowed on YouTube. So that's the thing.
Get demonetized or whatever.
Well, not demonetized, deplatformed probably if I put the last 5% in. But basically, it's an extremely candid channel. So guys are visual primarily when they look for a partner. Now, that's not a very PC thing to say. It sounds very superficial,
it's true.
But it's true. Right? This is it, right? The most important thing for guys when they look for a girl is how they physically look, because biologically we're looking for, basically subconsciously, for a woman to carry our children, so she has to look healthy, and that's why visuals are very important, right? For a woman, it's different, right? They're not looking for a guy necessarily to be aesthetically good looking, so an advantage, but they're looking for things like status, primarily, and can he provide? These are all the kind of like atavistic.
It's a slightly different criteria set.
Yeah, we'll say, right? So looks, and you see that here, this is very relevant. So girls here, they tend to be a little bit more old school. They don't choose guys as much based on looks. They definitely go for a guy who's going to provide more and who's going to give the traits that he can solve problems. I think being a problem solver is very important for Ukrainian guys, and they're really good problem solvers. I have to say, the Ukrainian guy friends I have in general, because they have to be.
Upped your problem solving skills?
I have to, because Ukrainian girls won't be able to solve anything. They just look to guys to solve all their problems. That's slightly stereotypical, and of course not everyone's like that, but in general that's their focus. They think guy solve problem. That's basically what they think in their head, right? To be very simplistic about it. So do they only offer looks?
That's a big part. I mean, to be honest.
It's a big part. It's not the only, by the way, I should preface this by saying that's actually not the main reason I come to Ukraine, for sure, Eastern Europe. It's a big factor, but it's not the only reason. I have a very good Italian friend, Luigi, and he's also a huge...
It's a very Italian name, yes. Luigi. Yeah.
Luigi. And he now lives in Ukraine, in Kiev, and we're basically consider at Odessa our spiritual home, Odessa Mama. And he said, siamo venuti per la prima volta per la figa, ma siamo rimasti per, I don't know actually remember how to say it, but per l'atmosfera or
you know what?
Something like that.
Ho studiato italiano in Inghilterra, but I've forgotten everything now.
So basically what he said, the first time we came was for the pussy. I'm not sure if you're allowed to say it, you can bleep it out, but basically that's a slang word for vagina. But we stayed for, actually don't remember what he said we stayed for, but for the atmosphere, basically, for the city itself.
This is, you're talking about Odessa now, right?
Yeah, Odessa.
Yeah. I haven't been to Odessa yet, but here in Lviv, it really is a beautiful city, beautiful architecture. I like the atmosphere. It's got a nice kind of fusion between Western and Eastern Europe, I would say. I don't know, I really like it. I have quite a few Ukrainian students who had often told me about it, and now I'm here and I really like it.
Oh, it's a fantastic country, and it's I mean, why else come to Ukraine? It's like a fraction of the cost, obviously, so your money goes a lot further here than it's going to be on the Côte d'Azur in France, right? So you want to know more about Ukrainian girls?
Well, maybe we'll come back to the girls in a second. I just want to ask you about Ukraine itself, because people, if I'm sure you've had this before, you saying, I'm in Ukraine, I'm going to Ukraine, and maybe I say the same thing. Oh, I'm in Ukraine at the moment. People say, is that safe? Are you okay? So let's set the record.
It's so dangerous here. Don't come. The girls will break your heart.
See, we're dodging bullets right now. But okay? Maybe not safe from a heartbreak perspective.
Probably not.
Is Ukraine a safe country to visit?
Where you're going to come to 100%, because you're going to visit Kiev, Lviv, or Odessa, and those three cities are completely safe. The war is in the east of the country, in Donbass. That is a long way.
Very far.
It's basically irrelevant. In the beginning, a few years ago, you saw a lot of soldiers. It was a little bit more tense, but today it's not tense outside of like the how do you say what is the word in English? Line of control between the separatists in Donbass and the Ukrainian government.
And like demarcation zones?
Yeah, well, I guess there's basically trenches all around there, and they don't move very much. It's like the First World War. Basically, they fire mortars at each other and shoot at each other.
Obviously, it's a horrible situation, but if you are in the major cities, it's like a different world, basically.
Yeah, you don't notice the war if you're here, and if you're a foreign visitor, it's basically irrelevant. It's definitely safer than being in London, Paris, or Madrid, because you do not have the same threat of a terrorist attack or a bombing on at the airport or the metro. There was one or two explosions, very small ones in Odessa at the beginning of the conflict, but they basically blew up the bombers themselves. So they weren't even trying to kill people; they were just trying to blow up a building, something, and they
just basically shot themselves. Well, not shot themselves in the foot, but they
blew themselves up.
Yeah. I have to say, for me, one of the main criteria when I go somewhere is definitely safety. Safety is a big thing, because if you're not safe, you don't have much else. And when I walk around here at nighttime, basically any time of day, I feel very safe. I don't worry about safety. It's not even a consideration. And for me, that's a big thing. So
definitely this region is safer than Western Europe.
For sure.
For being assaulted. I mean, I grew up in Ireland. I have the most trouble with being harassed in bars and clubs in England. Like English guys, like I know what it is, or Welsh or whatever, just in the British Isles. I'll include Ireland as well. They're very aggressive when they're drunk, and they're likely to beat you up and whatever, pick a fight with you, right? In groups and packs, right? They're not even fucking brave.
I've had trouble even in Japan. I mean, Japan's a very, very, very safe country, but I've had drunk Japanese guys kind of, some altercations with them.
That has never happened to me in Eastern Europe. I did have one incident very recently, so it's fresh in my mind, where I went to Gomel, which is a city on the border with Russia in Belarus, near to the Chernobyl fallout zone. It's actually the city got the most fallout, and it feels like Russia there. We're very close to the border. And local guys certain local guys, actually I was very polarizing. It's interesting. The guys who were like more educated and traveled, I had more about them, they were super cool. They were actually very friendly and actually would come up and say, hey, what are you doing, blah, blah, and they'd help me and befriend me. But then you had the guys who were not so dynamic in the city, and they were basically like, this foreign motherfucker, he's here, and he's stealing our chicks, basically. So I had a lot of guys come up when I was with girls and really aggressive, and they weren't even with the girls, they just wanted to stop some foreign guy taking them home. And I speak Russian, by the way, so this obviously helped diffuse. I didn't get assaulted or anything. I wouldn't like to have been there without speaking Russian. When the guys tried to AMOG me with, this is kind of like to outmatch me by switching everything to Belarusian with the girls, and I actually just replied in Belarusian because I can speak it a little bit. And then he was completely emasculated.
Here's some very non-PC vocabulary for you here. To cock block.
Oh yes, yes. Very
right.
Good word though. Good term.
Again, I'm going to put you on the spot and let you, as we usually do in the podcast, we like to let the guests kind of define things. So,
what is cock blocking?
What is cock blocking? Cock blocking. Can you use it in a sentence?
Okay. Well, I'll just say. I mean, cock you probably know is a slang word for penis, and block is obviously to block someone. So basically,
to stop. To block. To stop. Yeah.
To stop. Sorry. And basically, it's when you're in an interaction as a guy with a girl or with another guy, if you happen to be gay, and someone else, a third party, comes and tries to prevent you from having an intimate relationship, of whether that's long or short, with the girl that you're talking to, the guy you're talking to, basically. So you would have to be a guy and have a penis in order to be cock blocked. But
maybe ladies watching this are probably, or listening to this are probably very confused about this.
No, they're not. They're not at all, because
okay.
they probably cock block.
Cock block each other, yeah.
Like
What would be the female equivalent for that?
being blocked as a girl. I don't know.
I'm trying to think one of the
You
brides.
see, guys don't do that so much. They'd be like, oh, the girl is into the friend. The guy will either say, listen, go away if he's interested in the girl, or his friends will be like, oh, he's interested, so let him go home with her, right? But for girls, it's different because the social dynamics are different. So you have two different types of cock blocking. So these guys are kind of cock blocked because they're jealous, right? These girls are not going to do anything with them, but they want to stop another guy having success. So they're jealous and low value.
There's a lot of cock blocking actually that goes on with women as well, definitely.
Yeah, but I'm going to explain. I'll go into that second. So these guys are basically low value. They have no chance. They just want to stop someone else because they cannot raise their own standards. So they just try to lower everyone else's, right? So this is super low level behavior, and something you should not mimic if you're a guy, because you will not progress, right? You should just watch the guy who's successful and try to figure out what the fuck he's doing, right? And then copy it, because then you're going to be successful. But these guys anyways were pretty much what we call losers, and that's what they tried to do. And they tried to intimidate me physically, right? But luckily I managed to talk enough and diffuse the situation. They didn't punch me, but one of the guys definitely wanted to. So the other thing that Lloyd has alluded to is female cock blocking. This is basically when in a social situation where a girl that you are interested in has a friend, and you have not dealt with the friend in the group and make her feel that her friend should go home with you, basically. This is why, or kiss you or whatever, right? So that's why she will cock block you, but basically it's your responsibility. This is what I coach guys in. Like, the first thing, if a guy starts saying, oh, the girlfriend, the friend, oh, there's always some bitch who like cock blocks, like, no, you didn't take care of your responsibility to convince her friend that it was a good idea that she hooks up with you, basically, or she kisses you, or she gives you her phone number, or she sleeps with you, whatever it happens to be. Because basically, there are a lot of sleazy, freaky guys out there, and she's just looking out for her friend most of the time. She's like, this guy's a fucking weirdo, right?
So basically, you would advise your coaching clients in that case to befriend. To befriend, by the way, means to make friends with someone. So to befriend the girl's friend, the girl you're interested in.
You have to make them feel at ease with you, right? It doesn't have to become their buddies. You don't have to be disingenuous and be like, hey, what's up? You cannot ignore them, right? So most guys, what they do is they focus on the girl and they ignore all the friends, right? Listen, she's in a social environment. She's come with at least one friend normally, if not a group of friends. She has her social status, right? She can have a ruined by you, Mr. Don Juan, who shows up, right? And her friends are looking out for her. Maybe she's been drinking alcohol and they want to make sure that she's okay. So you have to also convince the friends that it's a good idea for her to come over to you. That just means you're cool with everybody. And you don't ignore her friends. You don't have to spend all night talking to the friends, but you gotta acknowledge them and you gotta be cool with them and demonstrate your value, right, basically as a guy, to not just her but also her friends, and then it's a win for everybody. You're gonna get laid or kiss her or go home with her. I'll give you lots of vocabulary there.
By the way, we have a lot of vocabulary to get through, but just a key one there. To get laid means to have sex, basically. Often more commonly used for guys, I would say. Could be used for girls as well. It's like,
they use it as well.
They use it as well, but I'd say it's quite a recent slang, like in the last 10 years or so.
It's a new word.
So to get laid, to have sex, yeah.
Yes. So basically, to get laid. I'm just trying to get words I could have thrown in there. To bang.
Oh wow.
Actually, Irish is a very interesting one. It's called Bulla Kraken. It means to like slap skin. That's actually directly what it means to have sex. That's something you would not expect to learn in this podcast.
We definitely don't say that one in English, but
yes.
Okay. I think we've got enough.
So basically, it's your responsibility if you're a guy watching this. You got to be not a creep, basically, and be cool with her friends. And then, as I said, everyone's a winner. You're gonna get the girl in some way. She's gonna get you, which is also a win for her. And her friends are gonna think, yeah, she hooked up with a cool guy. Everybody's a winner, right? So you gotta maximize utility for everybody and not just be like focusing on the girl, ignore her friends, make them bored, all that stuff. So don't complain about cock blocking from girls. From guys, yes, but
there was one more bit of vocabulary that actually came to mind, which is a lot of girls are afraid of being slut shamed.
Yes, very much so.
Slut shamed. So with a group of guys, if one guy's doing well with a girl, all the guys are like, yeah, you go and do it, you're doing well. If you flip the script and it's a group of girls and she's like getting on quite well with a guy, she might really like the guy, but she's worried about what the other girls are going to think.
And other guys.
And other guys and everybody.
Or social status is very important to her as a woman, right? So, unfortunately, in society, I personally don't believe in slut shaming. I think women should have sex with whoever they want to have sex with, right? I think you should always use protection and be sensible about it, and with your body, but it's your body, so you should do what you want with it. And slut shaming is terrible, but it happens in society. And basically, for a girl, she would lose her social status if she gets called a whore, a slut, and all these things.
But the guy is the opposite. He's the man, he's a player.
Yes, I think that's changing for the worse. I think you have a lot of slut shaming now happening to younger guys in Western Europe and North America, which is terrible. Basically, they're trying to equalize it by harassing and oppressing both genders instead of like liberating both genders, which have been the movement, we'll say, up to with the 60s, first wave and second wave feminism. That was what it was all about. Women having sexual rights, reproductive rights, being able, the 60s, the sex not be slut shamed. So that's something that's very important for girls. Obviously, it's their reputation, for their social standing, and not being called a slut or a whore. So yeah, that's some more whore.
Yeah, I personally have never understood the idea of, as you say, slut shaming. Just whatever, right? Just it's your body, whether you're a man or a woman. Have a good time.
100%.
All right, a few more questions, then I'll let you go. Do you have a crazy? Since this is the beer broadcast, by the way, inspired by the vodka podcast, do you have a crazy drinking-related story? See, he's eyeing some good vocabulary for you here right now. Live vocabulary. Conor is eyeing up some ladies.
Yes, but I have to finish this podcast before I talk to them, so they're gone.
Actually, after we... what are we doing after this?
We're going to go and film, actually, do some street interviews, so you still have some light, because I want to interview girls here in Lviv about they think of foreign guys like us.
We'll get that in a second. But so what Conor was doing, he was eyeing up some lady. He was like, look at that, hey, how you doing?
All right.
Okay, I'm going to ask you two more questions, and then we will go and do that for Conor's channel, Tsar Experience. Do you have a crazy drinking-related story you can share with us?
I've lots of where to start.
I mean, is there one that springs to mind in Eastern Europe?
In Eastern Europe, I have gotten way too drunk, and I don't encourage you to get that drunk. It can lead to problems. Fortunately, this region is pretty safe if you're drunk, because there are a lot of drunk people, and the local people don't take advantage of them in general. I have a really bad one, and this is one to be careful of. So I drank, I talked about this in one of my podcast episodes, but basically I was traveling from Brest, which is on the border with Poland.
I saw this video, yeah.
It's the last video actually on my channel, that's why it comes to mind. And I took a bus basically to Warsaw, and there were some local guys, Belarusian guys on the bus, and they were sharing some alcohol. It's called Samagon or Samachon in Belarusian. And it is a basic moonshine, it's a homemade liquor. It's extremely strong, and I refused it 2 or 3 times. And then apparently I started drinking it, and because they offered me some food, some blini, which are like little pancakes as well. And I just wanted to be social after the third. I felt bad, but basically I started drinking. I drank way too much of it. Apparently, it was extremely strong. I had tried to book an Airbnb, but apparently I've discovered the next day that was not the Airbnb I booked. I'd actually booked a room in a place, it turned out. I don't remember booking the Airbnb. I arrived, I don't remember arriving in Warsaw.
So you booked the Airbnb while you were drunk?
Yes.
Even though you already had one?
Yeah, I had one, but apparently they cancelled on me. And I was able to understand that, or someone had helped me, and then I booked another one, but it was actually a room in another place. It wasn't my own apartment. And it was actually, unfortunately, the address in a courtyard within another courtyard. So apparently I arrived in Warsaw, and apparently I took a taxi. I had no cash left, so I guess I overpaid the taxi driver a little bit. I think I had like 10 euros in cash. And my phone was dead, by the way, so I couldn't order an Uber. So it was not paid in my card. And I had arrived at the house address, but unfortunately then you had to walk through a courtyard, and then it was through the other courtyard, so I never found it. But luckily there was a hotel in the first courtyard, and the night porter helped me charge my phone.
But you don't remember any of this?
I remember the night porter, because he was laughing because I was such a state. And I remember my suitcase. By the way, I was traveling with a huge suitcase. I had my camera gear, everything with me, like expensive camera gear, probably about 7,000-8,000 euros worth of camera gear with me in my hands, or even in my suitcase, half of it. But apparently I managed to get there, and then he helped me apparently to get all my suitcases up. So I wake up the next morning, I'm extremely hungover. I just wake up in a strange room. I have no idea where I am. I see my camera bag's on the table. I see my suitcase in the corner. I said, thank God. Okay, thank fuck.
I don't think you use the word God in that situation, but
I'm not religious either, so I wouldn't have said God. I would say thank fuck. And then I was like, I walked outside. I went, took a shower. I felt horrendous. I came out. There was some Polish guy. And I just said, hey, I'm very sorry about the state I was in, because I knew I must have been super drunk. He's like, listen, we all get too drunk sometimes, it's fine. No worry, you didn't do anything too bad. It's like, fine. Then this girl comes, she speaks to me in French. I'm like, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I have no idea why she knows I speak French. She is French.
Is it more difficult for you to speak, like you speak French, of course, is it more difficult when you're hungover to speak in these languages?
It's not very difficult to speak these languages. But basically, she told me that had an hour conversation when I was drunk, and she knew everything about me. About my YouTube channel, where I lived, everything, my whole fucking life, because basically I talked about it. So yeah, so I got away with it, but that's something to be very tasty. I've done a lot of other crazy things, especially with girls in this region when I've been drunk. I don't know if I want to start telling all of those.
Well, maybe we can save that for the next edition. But okay, let me leave it with one last question. We will leave you wondering what that was going to be. Okay, last question for you today is now we're in Lviv. Many people I've spoken to, they've never heard of the city before. I've been trying to tell people, like, it's a beautiful city. It's inexpensive. It's especially this time of year. The weather, well, today the weather's nice. It's got lots of nice coffee shops, restaurants, etc. Really nice, and it's kind of not somewhere which is on the radar for a lot of people. Somewhere's on the radar, then you're kind of aware of it. Everybody knows the Barcelonas, the Parises, the New Yorks, etc. Where is another place that no one's heard of, okay, except for the people who live there and you, that you would recommend
for what reason
people to go?
For what reason? What kind of person?
Just a
my ideal client.
Maybe not. It could be your client, but just for any of our listeners or viewers out there.
That's what they got to pay me for. That's why they pay me money.
Let's just say like a beautiful city who people haven't heard of.
People haven't heard of mainstream. That's not mainstream. I don't think Lviv is mainstream, to be honest.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying Lviv is probably not so well known, at least among English speakers out there.
Is Odessa mainstream? It's my spiritual home. Let me think.
Odessa, what's the big draw of Odessa? I mean, except for the ladies, of course, but the beaches there, right?
The water's terrible.
The water's terrible.
It has
nightlife.
Nightlife is great in the summertime. It's amazing. It's the summer capital of Ukraine. It has like very Western European and Central European influence architecture. It's really beautiful, right in the city center. It has a special atmosphere that I don't think you find anywhere else in the former Soviet Union. So that's why I say Odessa, Mama, it's the city to go to.
And maybe also add Minsk to that as well.
Minsk, you go for the chicks.
Minsk is
There's nothing else to do in Minsk.
Minsk is not a city that I had really thought about before, but I had a nice time there. And
you were with a girl.
I may have been.
There's nothing to do in Minsk. Don't go there if you're a girl, because unless you like Belarusian guys. There's nothing to see.
I thought Minsk was a very nice city, beautiful parks, and
I will say that you should go if you want to see a little bit of a time capsule for the Soviet Union, because I think it's the closest you're going to find. And people are really friendly. Everybody, guys, girls, are really friendly there.
Very friendly, again, very safe, and yeah.
But go for the girls.
Conor, thank you so much.
Right,
It's been a pleasure. The first ever beer broadcast here on English TV Live.
And I want to finish this by teaching your viewers, you, another Irish word, which is sloincha, which means health.
Sloincha?
Yeah, health.
Sloincha?
But it actually means cheers. So that's what we say in Irish. And I also say, when I speak in English, I always say sloincha. So sloincha.
Right. Well, sloincha, everybody out there. And we will be back again next time. Ciao.
Ciao, do pobacenia, which is goodbye in Ukrainian. And yeah, if you're interested in checking out my channel, if you're interested in coming to
Tsar Experience.
Tsar Experience, my name is Conor Clyne. Type any of that stuff into YouTube, you'll find it. Basically, if you want to come and see a non-PC travel experience, my experience traveling here in Eastern Europe as a single Western European guy, and you want to have a high-level experience, like not a backpacker experience. I should always explain that my channel is not for backpackers. If you have no money and you're not interested in spending it, and you can come to Ukraine, you'll have a great time, and Russia, whatever, but it's not what you're going to see in my channel. It's going to be a higher price point and level, but you're going to see how to party hard, meet beautiful women, stay out of trouble, and basically use the local language, make great friends, lifelong friends, and just have an unforgettable experience. So if you're into that, then check out my channel. If you're not, don't go there. It's not, you're going to be triggered probably if you don't like that stuff.
To be triggered.
Triggered, that's
We'll talk about that vocabulary another time. Tsar Experience, everybody. Go and check it out. Conor Clyne.
Ciao.
Ciao, everybody.
Ciao.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was great.